The cameras were rolling. The audience was holding their breath. And Johnny Carson, the man who had interviewed everyone from presidents to pop stars, looked at one woman and said words he had never said before or since. "There are 9, he announced. Only 9. Then he named them, live on national television. The list would ignite decades of debate, jealousy, and quiet heartbreak behind Hollywood's brightest smiles. But here's what the cameras never showed. One name on that list didn't belong there. And the reason she made it? That's the part Johnny took to his grave. The red light on camera 1 blinked on. December 15, 1982. Burbank, California. The Tonight Show stage was exactly 72 feet wide. Johnny Carson had measured it himself once. A joke he never told on air. He sat behind his desk. The mug was there. The suit was charcoal gray. And the audience was already laughing before he opened his mouth. That was his power. "The other night," he said, leaning in like he was about to share a secret with millions of people, "I got to thinking, and I don't do that often, so pay attention." More laughter. Ed McMahon revved up his signature, "Who?" from the couch. Then Carson delivered the line that would become legend. "I've interviewed hundreds of beautiful women on this show. Hundreds. But there are only 9, and I mean only 9, who I would call the most beautiful I've ever seen." The audience went quiet. Not uncomfortable quiet. Leaning in quiet. He pulled a small piece of paper from his jacket pocket. Unfolded it slowly. Adjusted his glasses even though he didn't need to. And then he started reading names. Marilyn Monroe. He never met her on the show. She died 5 years before he took over. But he saw her once at a party in 1958. Never forgot it. Audrey Hepburn. Princess Grace. Sophia Loren. Each name landed like a small bomb of recognition. By the 4th name, women in the audience were gripping their husbands' arms. By the 7th, Ed McMahon had stopped laughing entirely. But here's what the cameras didn't catch. Behind the desk, Carson's left hand was shaking. Slightly. Almost invisible. He had a specific reason for making this list on this specific night. And one of the names he read, the 9th name, she wasn't even in the building. I want to know, if you grew up watching Johnny Carson, drop a comment right now. Tell me your favorite Tonight Show memory. Takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube this story still matters. The 9th name was Angie Dickinson. When Johnny Carson said it, and Angie Dickinson, of course, her face appeared on the split screen. She was sitting in the guest lineup, 3 seats down from the desk, and she was not smiling. Rewind 6 hours. Backstage. Green Room B. Production assistant named Marky brought her tea. Angie looked at the call sheet. Saw she was booked as the 2nd guest. Standard. Fine. Then she saw the running order note. "Johnny has a list. You're on it." She asked what that meant. The assistant didn't know. Angie almost walked out. Here's why. By 1982, Angie Dickinson was 49 years old. She had already been a Golden Globe winner. Already starred in Policewoman for 4 seasons. Already turned down more roles than most actresses got offered. She didn't need Johnny Carson's approval. But the industry didn't see it that way. A man's list could make you or break you. And she knew that being named would follow her forever. Every interview. Every profile. Every time some journalist needed an easy paragraph. Johnny Carson once called her one of the 9 most beautiful women in the world. She stayed because her agent told her to. "It's Johnny," he said. "You don't say no to Johnny." Here's what nobody told her. Carson had originally written down 10 names. The night before the show, he crossed one out. A woman he'd had a falling out with 3 years earlier. He replaced her with Angie. She was a substitute, and she never knew. In a 1987 interview with People magazine, she said this: "Being on that list felt like being handed a crown made of glass. Beautiful to look at, but you're terrified someone will bump the table." She laughed when she said it, but her hands were shaking. If this story is hitting you the way it hit me when I first found the archive footage, hit subscribe. We find the stories the world forgot, and we make sure they're never forgotten. The missing name was Raquel Welch. By every objective measure, she belonged on that list. In 1982, she was still one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. She had been a guest on The Tonight Show 11 times between 1968 and 1979. Carson had flirted with her on air, called her a national treasure in 1974. So where was she? The answer lives in a cardboard box at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. The Johnny Carson Archives. Box 47, Folder 12. A handwritten letter dated September 9, 1979. Carson wrote it to his producer, Fred DeCordova. 3 sentences. Here's the exact quote. "Raquel is not welcome back. She knows why. I don't want to discuss it further. Nobody knows what happened." The archive doesn't contain a reply from DeCordova. Carson never mentioned it on air. Welch herself stayed silent until 1998, when a Vanity Fair reporter asked her directly. Her response? "Johnny had a temper and a memory. If you crossed him once, even accidentally, you were dead to him. I still don't know what I did. But here's what we do know. 6 months before that letter, Welch had canceled an appearance at the last minute. Flew, her publicist said. Carson had to scramble for a replacement guest. He never forgave her. That's the thing about Johnny Carson that the public never saw. On camera, he was warmth and wit. Off camera, he kept a list. Not of favorites, of enemies. And when he made his 9 most beautiful women list 3 years later, he didn't just forget Raquel Welch. He erased her. Deliberately, publicly, with millions watching. But there's a darker layer to this list. A secret about one of the women he did name. Something that happened just 6 months before he put her on that list. And when you hear it, you'll understand why she almost broke down on live television. Most of us will never sit in that chair. But we all know what it feels like to be chosen for someone else's reasons, not our own. That's why this story refuses to leave you. Suzanne Pleshette was the 4th name on Carson's list. When he said it, Suzanne Pleshette, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greats. The camera found her in the audience. She was not a guest that night. She had come to watch a friend perform. Carson spotted her in the crowd and called her out. She waved, blew a kiss. The audience applauded. What they didn't see was the tremor in her hand. 6 months earlier, Suzanne Pleshette had finalized her divorce from Tom Gallagher. 17 years of marriage. 17 years of private pain that the tabloids never fully uncovered. He had been unfaithful repeatedly. She had stayed for their son. When the divorce was final, she told exactly 3 people. Johnny Carson was one of them. They had been friends since 1968. She had guest-hosted The Tonight Show 6 times, one of only a handful of women Carson trusted behind his desk. He knew about the divorce before the papers were even signed. He knew she was still sleeping 4 hours a night. He knew she had started seeing a therapist in Encino, a woman named Dr. Helen Ross, and he put her on the list anyway. Here's why that matters. In a 1991 interview with the Archive of American Television, Pleshette said something she never said anywhere else. Quote, "Johnny had this way of celebrating you at exactly the moment you least wanted to be seen. He meant well. I believe that. But being called beautiful, when you're barely holding yourself together, it's not a compliment. It's a spotlight you didn't ask for." She paused in the interview, looked down, then looked back at the camera. "I cried in the car on the way home that night, not because I was sad, because I was so tired of smiling." Carson never asked her how she felt about being on the list. Never called the next day. Never mentioned it again. That was the other thing about Johnny. He gave you the moment, the gift of his attention, but he didn't stay for the aftermath. And when Johnny Carson died in 2005, only 3 of those 9 women attended the funeral. The rest? They had their reasons. One of them never spoke his name again. The funeral was May 23, 2005. Forest Lawn Cemetery, Los Angeles. 3 of the 9 showed up. Sophia Loren sent flowers. Angie Dickinson stayed home. Suzanne Pleshette was out of the country, or so her publicist said. Raquel Welch, the one he left off, she attended, sat in the back row, left before the service ended. A reporter asked her why she came. She said, "Because I wanted to make sure he was really gone." That quote never ran. Too dark. her publicist said. But a freelance photographer heard it, wrote it in a notebook. That notebook now lives in a private collection in Santa Monica. Here's what the list cost. In 1988, a doctoral student at UCLA named Margaret Chen studied the careers of women publicly anointed by powerful men in entertainment. Her findings were never published, too controversial. But her notes survive. She found that within 5 years of being named to a beauty list or most desirable ranking by a male host or producer, 62% of those women reported fewer serious acting offers, being asked to just look pretty in interviews, a measurable drop in how industry peers took them seriously. Angie Dickinson felt it first. After the Carson list, she was offered 3 roles. All of them were the beautiful older woman. No depth, no complexity. She turned down 2. Took the 3rd because she needed the money. Suzanne Pleshette felt it too. People stopped asking me what I thought, she told a friend in 1989. They just wanted me to sit there and be lovely. The 9th woman on Carson's list, the one he never named publicly? There wasn't one. That was the secret the whole time. The list had 8 names. He added a 9th at the last minute because 9 sounds better than 8. He made up the 9th name on air. A woman who wasn't even in the building. Nobody caught it. Not Ed. Not the producers. Not the 72 feet of studio audience. Because when Johnny Carson spoke, America believed him. Think about that for a second. A list of the 9 most beautiful women in the world, and one of them didn't exist. He just wanted to see if anyone would notice. Nobody did. Until now. And if you think Johnny Carson's list was complicated, wait until you hear what happened when another late-night legend made his own list. But that's the next story. And let me tell you, it ends with a death nobody saw coming. Stay right here.